Hello everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you today.
A very good evening to everyone present here today. I would like to invite Interactor Abizer Zohair and Interactor Hussaina Shabbir to recite the pledge, interact invocation, and the four-way test.
Please raise your left hand. I salute the national flag of Sri Lanka, which signifies the independence of my country, and stand for all its people united as one nation. I pledge allegiance to Sri Lanka and undertake to work towards its peace and prosperity in the spirit of tolerance and love. Thank you. Instill in us, O Lord, the true meaning of friendship. Never let us forget that we are thy children, that the differences of cultures and creed should not matter. Endow us with a desire to serve our fellow men, remembering that we too often need help at all times when the need arises, caring to make our badge of interact worthwhile. Tell us we have not lived in vain.
A four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Interactor Abizer and Interactor Hussaina. I would now like to call upon Rotarian Asita Jayamaha to give the welcome address.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to this project, You Matter. This is organized by two Interact clubs, Interact Club of Burhani Serendib School and Interact Club of Isipathana College. A special welcome to Tasha De Silva, who's our facilitator today. I am a big fan of your work. I don't know how you do it, but you seem to be getting better and better at it every day. And it's a timely topic, and thank you for coming on board to help our youngsters. So the mental well-being and mental health during the pandemic is quite an issue these days, especially because it's like a prolonged curfew that has been there for 2 years. But the difference between this curfew and the curfews that we used to experience as kids those back days is that here you can't see your enemy. The enemy is hidden. It's a germ, it's a bacteria, it's a virus. So you don't know how to be careful, but you have to be careful, and you're living in a constant state of anxiety. So I remember back in the day when we were kids and when we had to endure curfews and civil wars and all those. We used to go through the same thing: anxiety, depression, not knowing when to reach out to friends or whether we will be able to meet our friends, sometimes losing our friends. So I see the same circle, same events have come full circle now, and the younger generation going through it. And when you experience something like this for the first time, it can be pretty difficult. For us, the old guys, we have been through it, so we know how bad it is, we know how bad it can get, and we are somewhat mentally prepared, but not for a pandemic of this long, not for lockdown of this long. So I can see COVID fatigue setting in on everybody. So it's a very timely topic selected by our two Interact clubs to bring into focus and into discussion. And Tasha, a special note to you. I think you should do a program for our club as well, the seniors, because not just the youngsters, even the seniors seem to be suffering from COVID fatigue a lot. And I can see that it's affecting their daily lives. So without further ado, let me hand over the floor to, or the virtual meeting space, to my interactors and to Tasha. And I wish you all the best, and congratulations to the two committees and the two clubs of Interact Club of Burhani Serendib and Interact Club of Isipathana for organizing this program. All the very best to you. Have a good program.
Thank you, Rotarian. Our speaker for the day is Ms. Tasha De Silva. Tasha is a clinical psychologist and a member of the British Psychological Society. She completed her bachelor's in psychology at the University of Warwick, UK in 2014, followed by a master's in applied psychology specializing in clinical and counseling from Coventry University, UK in 2016. She holds diplomas in cognitive behavioral therapy, child psychology, and teaching, training, and assessing of adults. As a strong advocate of mental health and child development, she founded Bright Minds LK as a means of creating awareness and providing access to free resources, information, and tools related to mental health. Her aim is to enhance the provision of services whilst reducing the stigma attached to mental health concerns. She is also a part-time psychologist at Shanti Margam, a non-profit organization focused on enhancing the emotional well-being of children and youth through psychosocial support. Her focus in this area stems from her postgraduate research on the strain and coping strategies of primary caregivers in Sri Lanka for children with neurodevelopmental disorders. Through her research, she gathered a wealth of insight into how services can be enhanced to better address children and their caregivers' needs. She works predominantly with children, adolescents, and young adults to address varying mental health related concerns such as anxiety, depression, stress, anger management, trauma, abuse, as well as developmental delays and special educational needs. She has work experience both locally and at National Council for Mental Health as well as internationally for Care Education India, Depression Alliance UK and Alice Stevens School UK. She also has corporate experience working at John Keel's Holdings PLC in corporate social responsibility and human resources. The floor is all yours, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Arifa, for that kind introduction, and also to the Rotarian Asita for your intro speech. As you said, this is a very timely and relevant topic, and I am very pleased to know that the younger generation are organizing initiatives such as this to bring awareness about mental health and support one another in coping with situations such as this pandemic in the healthiest way possible. I would be glad to do one for the Rotary Club as well. So without further ado, I will go into my presentation. Could somebody enable screen sharing for me, please?
Done.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Is it visible to everybody?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, great. So as the topic given to me today is on mental health during COVID-19, there were a series of questions that were shared with me. So I will, my presentation will mainly focus on addressing those questions that were shared. Of course, at any time, if something is not clear or you would like me to elaborate on it further, please speak up and I will respond to you. Then at the same time, I believe at the end of my presentation, there will be room for question and answer, so you can ask them at that time as well. I'd like to make this interactive as possible so that it's not just me talking for the next 20 minutes or so. I'll try to keep it as simple, as brief as possible, whilst also giving you as much helpful information as possible. Okay. So the first question, why is mental health important during a pandemic? So firstly, I would like to define what health is. And it's important that people realize that health is not only physical health that we often refer to, but there's also a mental and social aspect to it. And whilst most of the time we discuss health in terms of the physical aspect, the mental and social aspect is equally as important and can have equally as negative impact as physical health can come, right? So as we know, in the last 2 years through COVID, many people have become much more conscious of the importance of health, right? Because if you don't have health, life becomes very restricted, right? I mean, of course, ultimately you could have no life at all, you could be dead, right? But more than that, even if you are physically ill or mentally ill to a significant level, it impacts all areas of your life. It will impact how, whether you're able to socialize or not. It will impact whether you're able to go to school or study or take part in recreational activities, whether you're able to apply for that job, do the job. Health, as much as physical health can impair you from living life and your quality of life, mental and social health also is very, very critical, right? And if someone doesn't have good mental health, they don't have good health in general, right? So when we say health is wealth, right, more important than money, more important than success, more important than fame, the same is true for mental health, right? If you don't have good mental health, it doesn't matter if you are successful or famous or rich, right? You would not be able to enjoy that, right? So your quality of life gets significantly impacted, and thus your ability to live life to the fullest also gets impacted. So another thing that's very important to clarify about mental health, and often people take for granted that, I'm doing good, I'm happy, I'm motivated, I'm satisfied with life, right? If you feel like that, then you fall under the spectrum of being mentally healthy, right? But it's a spectrum, right? And when we say spectrum, it means that there is healthy, there's reactive, there's struggling, there's crisis. And throughout your life, depending on what's happening environmentally, socially, exhibiting more negative emotions such as anger, anxiety, lingering sadness, fearfulness, hopelessness, worthlessness. You may become more preoccupied with suicide ideations. You may become easily fatigued or overwhelmed. All of that happens as you gradually move towards the right of the scale. So what I would say is mental health is an active process, right? Similar to how in order to maintain your physical health, you have to eat healthy, you have to exercise, you have to regularly go to the doctor and get checkups. Mental health requires the same active, intentional choice every day to maintain and improve it, right? So even if you are feeling like your mental health is suffering, you can do things about it, you can improve it, right? Or if you are doing good, don't take it for granted, maintain that level by practicing self-care habits, reaching out to your social support, and there's more tactics that I will talk about in the future slides, right? But remember, it's not a fixed permanent state, and reaching out for help, whether it's professional or social support, is important, but also recognizing where along the spectrum you are. If you are closer to the right, it might be better to reach out for professional help because your friends and family may not be able to help you in the manner necessary, right? But if you are in the yellow, I would still say, you don't think it's that severe, you can manage it, you can cope. Still, I want you to look at how you can improve your coping strategies, how you can improve your daily routine, how you can introduce more self-care strategies, and how you can reach out to your support system. So with that, right, the next question that was asked was to talk about what are the effects of COVID, and how has that impacted mental health, right? So we all know the impact of COVID is far-reaching, right? And every day it seems like something else is being added to the list, right? COVID is something any of us could have anticipated, right? With it comes a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of the things that I've listed on this slide, right? So COVID has made us socially isolate. Because of the uncertainty and the fear, there is an increased prevalence of substance abuse, so that maybe people drinking more or taking more drugs, domestic violence, people are at home more frequently, and again, related to the substance abuse, if people are drinking and taking drugs more, they're not in control of their emotions as much, and that leads to domestic violence. There are financial issues, so the economy isn't doing well, but at the same time, many people are losing their jobs, or even if they're not losing their jobs, they've had to take a cut in their salary. A lot of uncertainty, right? We often don't know, is there going to be a lockdown? Then when the lockdown is imposed, when is the lockdown going to be lifted? Even in terms of when is COVID going to end? When are things going to return to a sense of normal? We don't know, right? With that, there's a lot of fear. Fear is normal for anything that is new, anything that is unusual, any sort of change, fear comes with that, right? And with that, we have newspaper, as well as social media, as well as all sorts of platforms that are bombarding us with negative news, right? So many cases, so many deaths. And apart from COVID, there are other tragic events happening around the world. And all of that, in taking that on a daily basis can be really overwhelming, can make you feel really anxious, can make you feel really down, can make you feel really stressed, right? The increasing concerns for health and safety, right? All of us are worried about our health, about the health of our loved ones. We have to practice certain safety procedures that we never used to do before, right? From wearing a mask to washing our hands, to being conscious where we go, what we touch, etc. Very many people would have lost loved ones or friends or someone, or heard of people passing away due to COVID, and not only COVID, even other illnesses during this time. I think because the hospitals have been so overloaded, even other treatable diseases and illnesses, sometimes those people have also been lost during this time. Disrupted routine, all of us have kind of had an overhaul of how we operate. If you used to go to school, now you're having school online. If you used to wake up at 6:30, maybe because you don't have school, you wake up a bit later, you go to sleep later, you're maybe not eating as much, or you're eating too much, you're not sleeping enough. So many different things as a result of COVID, and because of the lack of that structure that we used to have, our routine is disrupted, and that can also impact your mental health, right? So I've also put insomnia. A lot of people, because of all these factors, insomnia is another symptom that you get out of having mental health concerns, right? But it's also, people may be thinking about the future, about their children, about their studies, about the economy of Sri Lanka, about the vaccination status, so many things, right? And those things can keep you up, right? And it can also cause anxiety, stress, depression, burnout, right? So whilst anxiety, stress, depression, burnout are mental health concerns, they are also an impact of the COVID pandemic, right? So I don't think we can distinguish one from the other, right? And whilst anxiety, stress are, normal responses, if they are left unaddressed over time, it can become an illness, right? It can become a disorder. Depression, again, many of us may have moments where we feel sad, but if it's for prolonged periods of times and it becomes a sadness that is incapacitating, then it becomes a disorder. Burnout, also a natural response if you are a person who is either working or studying, with limited breaks and limited self-care, minding your self-care and your mental health. Over time, this can lead you to feel very fatigued, very demotivated, very disillusioned, right? And then again, that can lead to a more severe disorder, right? So while some of these things start off as a very natural response, it's important to recognize and address it now before it becomes something more severe. So the next question, right, was in terms of, was in terms of how to cope with, I'm just trying to, okay. How to cope with stress and anxiety during these times, right? So again, like I mentioned, stress, anxiety is very typical during something like this, a pandemic, right? And what I want you to know about stress and anxiety is they are pre-programmed, right, in your body. It is an evolutionary system of responding to a danger or a threat, right? So I'm sure all of you would have learned in school of the fight, flight, or freeze response, right? So, when there is some sort of threat or danger in our environment, our sympathetic nervous system is activated, right? And this activation is also commonly known the fight, flight, or freeze response. So what happens during this? Your heart rate increases, your blood flow increases, your breathing increases, you become more alert, you may start sweating, or you may feel tremors, or you may feel tense, right? All of this is preparing you to either fight or flight or freeze to that threat or danger, right? And when this system is activated, one of the things you feel because of the increased heart rate, the increased breathing, all of that, you feel that emotion or that thing that we all identify as anxiety, right? And when this fight or flight or freeze is activated, you're also releasing adrenaline and cortisol. Those two are what create that feeling that we know as stress, right? So what happens over time, especially in people who are anxious, is this fight, flight, or freeze response becomes more reactive, becomes more sensitive, and it starts detecting dangers or threats in things that are not necessarily harmful to us, right? So, for example, being anxious because somebody broke into your house and is armed is natural. You should, right? And the system should be activated, and you should flight, right? You should run away from that situation, right? Ideally, don't fight the person if they're armed. But some people may feel anxious to just go out in public places and hang out with their friends, right? And that's something that's developed over time because of the situation with the pandemic. For 2 years now, we have been socially isolating, limited social interactions, that you begin to believe that you can't socialize, that being with your friends is going to be uncomfortable, or they're going to judge you, or you're going to say something stupid, right? And so you start feeling anxious at the thought of doing this, right? Even though prior to the pandemic, maybe you were really sociable, you loved hanging out with your friends, you looked forward to it, and you never experienced anxiety, right? Or, even phobias, for example, people who are scared of swimming, or of cats, or of whatever it is, right? People have different phobias. That is all because your brain is associating something that is not harmful as harmful, and it's causing you to react anxious. And the important thing is, whilst you may know that this is irrational, that thing is not actually harmful to you, that you have to engage in that activity, the anxiety makes you want to avoid it, right? But avoidance is the worst thing you can do, right? For example, that example I gave you, if you used to be a sociable person, now because of the pandemic, you're feeling really socially anxious, you don't want to meet your friends, you don't want to talk to them, so you avoid them, right? But the more and more you avoid them, the stronger that association becomes in your brain that you can't socialize. And your brain craves you to avoid it. And you become, with each situation where you have to deal with people or see your friends or talk to your friends, that anxiety will increase because your brain is learning that the only way to relieve this emotion is by avoiding it. Similarly, depression, your brain will tell you to isolate, don't talk to your friends, you're all alone, you're not good enough, stay in your room, don't do anything. It will demotivate you, it will make you feel hopeless, it will make you feel sad, it will make you feel unloved, it will make you feel worthless, right? And it's important to know that whilst this is happening biologically, you are an agent of change in your life, right? And you can decide to break the cycle. You can say, okay, no, I'm going to see my friends, right? Okay, no, I have to get up and I have to, at least have a wash today. whatever it is, you don't have to let your emotions lead you, right? And the last point I put here in terms of stress also, so the more your fight, flight, or freeze response gets activated, right? If this happens over time and you're releasing cortisol and adrenaline all the time, that is an experience of stress, right? And if this keeps happening over time, it turns into something that's known as distress. And distress can be so harmful for your body, right? Because it affects your organs, right? And this is why, we say people who are really stressed, they have high blood pressure, they may have heart problems, they may have digestion problems, they will start having frequent headaches, they may have their muscles may be tense, they get lots of physical complications as well, right? So it's important to realize, like I said even in the first slide, your mental and physical health are very much related, right? If you are mentally ill, it'll affect you physically. If you're physically ill, it'll affect you mentally, right? And so this is, again, the main point from this slide is you can break the cycle, right? Your brain over time makes these faulty associations, and you need to teach your brain that this is faulty. It's not true, right? So if you're feeling like avoiding something because you're anxious, don't avoid it. Face that fear. Your brain will learn that there's nothing to fear, and over time your anxiety will reduce. It's difficult at first, but gradually it will work. Your depression will tell you that you can't do anything, that you're just going to feel sad for the rest of your life, that you should just isolate, that nobody cares about you. But if you move past that, and if you hang out with your friends, you laugh with them, you're with your family, you eat, you study, you stay motivated, you stay active, you'll begin to start feeling better. You'll begin to start releasing happy chemicals. And then over time, your depression will reduce, right? If you notice yourself being stressed, you need to do things to relax yourself, right? You need to take a break. You need to unwind. You need to have moments to enjoy, right? And then your stress will go away and it won't turn into distress. If anyone has any questions or, sorry, can you explain the way we overcome stress for O levels and higher studies? Right. Okay. It's a very good question, right? I think a lot of people have a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress over exams, over studying, right? And like I said in this slide, right, it's important to, first, what's your routine right? Are you studying from morning to night with no breaks, no time to relax? Are you burdening yourself with really high expectations and pressure? You need to identify what you're doing wrong, right? What is causing you to feel so stressed, right? Are you saying I need to study 24 hours of the day, and then when you're not studying 24 hours of the day, you feel guilty? Are you not studying at all, and are you just watching TV, and then that's making you feel guilty, right? First, you look at your routine, you try to make it balanced, right? So of course you should be studying, right? But you should also, have incorporate breaks, right? So usually when we say for studying, studying for hours and hours at a stretch is not productive, and you get really tired, and you might not be remembering everything you need to, right? So in between, remember to take breaks. It could be even 5-minute breaks where you just watch a short clip on your phone, or you do some stretching, or you go out for a walk, you have a chat with your family, and you come back, right? And so taking those breaks, then relax, unwinding at the end of the day, do something to unwind, whether it's taking a nice bath, going for a walk, meditating, talking to your friends, do something like that, right? And also have a plan, right? I think having a plan can relieve a lot of those worries and a lot of that stress. So rather than thinking I have exams next week, I need to study, break it down, right? Okay, you have to cover 3 chapters. To cover those 3 chapters will take you, I don't know, 20 hours, right? So you need to allocate 20 hours by next week, right? So then you put it down as a plan. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to study So you're going to study 4 hours for the next 5 days to reach that 20 hours, right? Then it seems, okay, that's manageable, right? Rather than thinking, oh my gosh, I have this whole topic to cover and I don't know how to do it. It's too much. I'm overwhelmed. But then when you really break it down, oh, it's only 3 chapters. This will take me 20 hours. And maybe what you should also do is overestimate, right? Don't say, oh, I can do this in 10 hours when you know it will take you 20 hours. It will take you 15 hours. Instead, maybe say 20 hours so that you also account for, I don't know, something happens and you're unable to study or you're feeling a bit demotivated. So you account for all of that in your plan. Okay, then the next one. So there is so much stress and people cannot deal with it, not just studying, but other things as well. So what exactly should we do? There are so many extrovert people don't want to meet their friends anymore. So what then, right? So like I explained, right, it doesn't matter if you're extroverted or introverted, right? That is just a personality trait and it means that you prefer, you feel more energized when you have time alone is what means introverted means. And you feel more energized when you're around people is what extroverted means, right? But it doesn't mean an introvert can't be social and it doesn't mean an extrovert does not like time alone, right? That's the first thing to clarify. The second thing is, of course, that, like I said, if you're feeling anxious and you don't want to hang out with your friends, you need to recognize that, hanging out with your friends, you used to enjoy hanging out with your friends. Your friends make you laugh. When you hang out with your friends, you'll always have a good time, right? You want to watch that movie that all your friends are going to watch, right? If you don't go with them, you won't get another chance, right? You think of all the reasons why you want to see your friends as opposed to, I don't want to see my friends because they will judge me or they will laugh at me, right? And then you think, okay, when have my friends judged me or laughed at me? Okay, that's not rational. It actually doesn't, it's a irrational fear I'm having. I'm going to prove that I can hang out with my friends. So you ignore that anxiety, you push through it and you go and hang out with your friends. You have a pleasant time, you have an enjoyable time. And then the next time that thought, that opportunity to hang out with your friends occurs, you're more likely to address it. Okay, let me just go through these slides and then I will come back to the questions, all right, if that's okay. Thank you for typing them in, right? I will definitely get to them, right? Because I think some of these questions may also answer some of the questions you'll have, right? Some of these slides. So the next question that I was given to answer is, how do you take care of one's physical and mental health amidst the pandemic, right? So physical health, I'm sure a lot of you are aware, your doctors would have told you, your parents would have told you, exercise is important, eating nutritious food, getting regular medical checkups, especially if you've been diagnosed with a pre-existing illness, it's important to, make sure you're doing that. Taking your vitamins and your medicine, those are things that you can do to make sure that you're physically fit. Also, sleep is another good one under physical, right? So mental, the same way, a lot of people assume that there's nothing you can do, right, for mental health, but there is a lot you can do. And in fact, mental health is pretty simple, right? It's not rocket science, and you can start doing these things today, right? So when we talk about mental health, right, it's about your mind, right? It's about your emotions, it's about your feelings, it's about how you think about certain situations, right? And so what you need to realize is there are things that life offers that will promote good mental health, right? So social connections are so important, right? As human beings, we are social beings, right? We are wired to seek the approval of others, the love of others, the support of others. We don't operate alone, right? And that's why the pandemic has been difficult for a lot of people, is because that has become restricted, right? If you live alone, for example, it's even worse, right? But even for y'all aren't going to school, y'all aren't seeing your friends every day. you can't hang out with them every weekend if you want to. You have to be safe. You have to obey to the lockdown rules, etc. Right? But social connections are important, and social connections, are not only your friends. It's your family. It's whatever colleagues you have, even in the Interact Club. The team members and all of them together. Those are social connections, right? And being social doesn't only mean going out, right? It can be talking to individuals over the phone or on Zoom or on WhatsApp. It can be having a meal with your family. It can be sharing a joke with somebody. It's so many different things, right? And even actually social connections can even apply to if you have a pet. That connection you have with your pet can be quite comforting for a lot of people, right? Especially if you are an animal person and you have a pet, that can also help with your mental mood, right? The other thing to be mindful of is, what are you engaging on daily, right? Is it pleasurable? Is it enjoyable to you, right? Sometimes when I speak to people and they're like, I hate my life, things are terrible, and I ask them what they're doing, they just say, I sleep half the day and then I watch Netflix the rest of the day, right? So naturally, your routine is very limited, right? You're sleeping and then you're watching Netflix. And then what are you watching on Netflix? I'm watching these thrillers and murder mysteries and all these gruesome, horrible shows, right? Which, if that's something you enjoy, you can, but you have to be mindful of how much of it you're watching, right? If that's all you're watching and then the rest of the day you're in your room in the dark, not talking to anyone, barely eating, not sleeping properly, not getting any physical activity, that's obviously going to affect you, right? So what did you used to do before you felt this way? I used to talk to my friends. I used to play video games with them. I used to go for a walk with my dad. Whatever it is, you have to do those things. You used to enjoy it. Right now, your brain is telling you you're not going to enjoy it, but why don't you try it out, right? And then you realize, you try it out and you realize, oh, actually, I do still enjoy this. Maybe I don't feel as happy as I used to feel doing this activity, but it still boosts my mood a bit, right? Then relaxation, right? All of us need to unwind. Your mind is working 24/7. When you're talking, it's working. When you're studying, it's working. When you're with people, it's working, right? And you need to give it a moment to unwind. How can you unwind? How can you make it relax? If you know meditation or mindfulness, great. Those are good practices, right? Continue that. If you don't, yoga, even, just closing like having a cup of tea and being with yourself for 5 minutes can be relaxing. Reading a book, watching TV, having a nice bath. For different people, different things are relaxing. But, consider what that is for you and do that. Physical activity, again, is something that's so, so important, right? We all take it for granted, right? Whether you consider yourself someone who is active or not, we all get some sort of activity. Especially pre-COVID, you would have been more active, right? Because you're at least you're at school, you're walking around, some of you maybe playing sports, you're going to your relatives' houses more, right? You're playing with your cousins or you're playing with your friends more. Now, most of us are home most of the time, right? But physical activity is so important. Exercise, yoga, dancing, stretching, walking, jogging, skipping, whatever it is, right? Whatever your level of capability, whatever your interest is, find something active and do it. Even for 5 minutes of the day, do it. Because physical activity, again, it releases these happy chemicals, right? It releases endorphins. It makes you feel good. So whilst you might not like to exercise, you do feel better after doing it, right? So think about that. Self-care, again, if you're a girl, even if you're a boy, small things like moisturizing, using a facial, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, wearing perfume, whatever it is, do something that makes you feel pampered and cared for, right? Even if you're at home the whole day, just being in the same clothes the whole day without showering, without brushing your teeth, it can over time impact your mood, right? But if you wake out of bed, brush your teeth, wash your face, put on a nice outfit, right? Even if you're not going anywhere, it can help you, right? And finally, the other thing is about recognizing or applying healthy coping strategies, right? So I'll talk about this a bit more in the next one, right? Because this is the final slide, right? Sorry, I'm taking a bit more time because there's a lot of questions also. I hope it's okay. Please stop me if it's not. But here, how can teenagers protect their mental health during COVID-19, right? So like I said, your daily routine is so important, right? Are you in bed the whole day on Netflix? Is that it, right? Try to do something fun. Try to do something active. Try to do something relaxing. Try to do something that's, productive, right? You have to balance fun with productivity and achievement as well, right? If you're just playing video games the whole day, that's still not a good routine. Even if you feel good about it, it's not good, right? You should be studying a little bit, helping around the house, doing other things that give you a sense of achievement, give you a sense of purpose. And it's not only about pleasure, right? You need to learn that life should be enjoyable and pleasurable, but there's also things that you do out of duty and responsibility that are important, that give you that structure, that give you that purpose, right? Coping strategies. Some coping strategies are bad, some are good, right? So we call them healthy or unhealthy. Unhealthy coping strategies are, for example, drinking, taking drugs, shutting yourself in your room and not talking to anyone, self-harm, screaming and shouting at people, pushing people away from you, right? Those are all unhealthy coping strategies, right? You're so emotionally burdened, and as a result, you think that this is the solution, but it's not. Healthy coping strategies are everything I mentioned before, right? Doing something that's physically active, doing something that's relaxing, doing something that's fun, doing something that's productive, right? Apart from that, journaling. If you don't like to journal, talking to someone, talking to your friends, talking to your family, if not them, talking to a professional, right? Don't bottle your emotions up, put them out, right? Then rather than hitting and screaming and shouting when you're angry, right? Take a few deep breaths, walk away from the situation, deal with it once you're calm, right? Those are all things that are healthy. Social media, again, for this, for our generation, your generation, right? Social media has become a huge thing. We're all on it, on Instagram, Facebook, etc., right? And whilst it can be fun, it can be very addictive. It's also important to be mindful of how it may be impacting your mood, right? I have a lot of kids come to me and say, oh, this person's life is so perfect. She's so pretty. She has all of this, right? It's not true. It's not. Social media is filtered, right? Nobody is going to take a picture of them crying on their worst day. Nobody does that, right? Everybody puts the best version of their life, a filtered positive version, right? And so it's important that you have that reminder when you're looking at it, right? And also not looking at it endlessly, right? Because then that becomes very addictive. And even on social media, there's a lot of negative news of what's happening in the world that can make you upset. Or seeing people going out and having fun. Maybe some of your friends are not abiding by the lockdown rules, and you are, and that makes you feel like you're missing out. All of those things, you need to be conscious of it, right? And you need to be conscious, and you need to take the necessary action at that time, right? Without thinking, oh, this is bad for me, but it's okay, and continue, right? Thinking patterns, right? A lot of kids, a lot of people, humans in general, we like to be negative, right? Especially if you're anxious, especially if you're depressed, if you're going through any mental illness, you will be more negative than normal, right? You will think about yourself in a negative way. You say, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, nobody likes me, I'm worthless, everything is hopeless, there's no point trying. Those are the sort of things you're thinking. That's not helpful for you, right? If you think like that, you're going to feel sad. If you feel sad, you're not going to want to do anything. And that cycle is going to continue, right? But if you think, I am good enough, I deserve better. If I work really hard, I can achieve anything I want to achieve. If you think like that, you feel motivated, you feel excited, you feel like, there are things you can do and achieve, and you will work towards it, right? So be conscious of that, right? And the final one, of course, is your support system, right? For different people, it may be different people or maybe one person, but everyone has a support system, right? It may be a friend, it may be your family, it may be someone at school, a teacher, whoever it is, right? Reach out to them, right? If you are struggling, reach out to them and get the support you need, right? Like I said, none of us can do this alone, especially COVID. It's such a difficult time. And you need to be honest with yourself, you need to be honest with others, and you need to tell them what support you need and how they can help you and work towards that, right? Yeah. So sorry, I rushed a bit towards the end. Let me go through these questions. Okay. All right. So I think I answered the extrovert person question. So Akila's question, excuse me, why can't I get to do anything at all? But I know my exams are near, right? Okay. So really, I would need to know more about the situation, right? But some possible things could be you have got so used to a certain routine, right? And your routine is based very much on pleasure. So it could be just watching TV or playing video games. And the idea of studying can seem really boring or really pointless because you feel like so much time has passed and now studying is not going to help, right? So you need to, like I said, you need to, maybe first thing is to set yourself some goals, right? And start gradually, right? Because if you've gone from not studying at all to maybe wanting to study 5-6 hours a day, it may not be practical or realistic. So instead, maybe say, okay, today I'm going to study for 2 hours, right? And if you find it boring and you can't take notes or you can't read your textbook, why not watch a YouTube video, right? To get you started with, right? Why not, if you're a creative person, why not draw it out, right? Draw out the concept, right? Try to make studying as interesting to you based on what your interests are, right? I hope that helps you a little bit, right? But every day is a new day to start, right? Don't focus on, I haven't been studying for so long. Just every day is a fresh start. So from tomorrow, you can do it, right? And the other thing that's important for everybody to know is they have this concept that they can only do things when they're motivated, right? But motivation is something that you can develop through action. So you take the step to study, and once you get into that flow of studying, once you realize you're learning things, once you realize you're retaining information and you're grasping the concept better and you're doing better in the practice papers, that will give you the motivation, right? But sometimes, unfortunately, you have to start that action in order to develop the motivation. That motivation might not be there at the beginning, right? So lots of people wait for that, and that's what makes it difficult. How would you know someone is going through a depression phase and how to come over that, right? Okay, so depression, very simply, right? There's a lot of aspects to it, but very simply is someone who is in a depressed mood and has lost all interest and pleasure in activities that they used to find pleasant or interesting, right? And this is usually for a period of 2 weeks or more, right? This is to be clinically diagnosed as depression, right? And it's usually accompanied with significant changes in perhaps sleeping, eating habits, Their thinking processes are much more negative. There's a sense of hopelessness. There's a sense that they are worthless. Lots of different aspects, right? But as a friend, you should be able to notice that change in someone, right? If they're close to you, you know that they're being unusually negative. They might be saying, "What's the point of life? I can't be bothered with anything anymore. I don't care." You know, they're not talking to you as much anymore. They don't, you know, want to do whatever you all used to do together. They're not doing it. They're trying to socially isolate. Those are all warning signs, right? How to come over that? Everything we discussed today should help you as a step, right? If someone is severely depressed, I think it's good to see a professional because they might not be able to just behaviorally, you know, adapt and work on it. Is it okay to get personally affected when friends insult or tease you just for fun, but then it keeps running in the back of your mind, possibly why you avoid hanging out with them and get anxious about it? Okay, right. Yes, so you have every right to be, you know, affected if someone insults you, right? They, whether that person meant it for fun or not, right? Sometimes it can be very hurtful to hear, right? So it's important, you know, to talk to your friends about it, right? If you can, you know, privately or whatever. Bro, when you said that, it really hurt me. I thought you meant it. I appreciate if you didn't do it in the future, right? So for some people, you know, no way, I'm not going to do that. Like, I can't talk to them about it, right? But then, you know, you need to remind yourself, okay, I know this guy, we've been friends for so many years, you know, he's always teased me, but I know he has my best interests at heart. You know, he doesn't mean to hurt me. He's just teasing me for fun. You need to remind yourself of it, right? But if you're having that doubt whether he's a good friend, whether he means it, whether, you know, whether he's doing it for fun or is he actually doing it to hurt you, then, you know, maybe is there somebody you want in your life, right? So that's also something, it really depends on the situation, right? Is this, how often is it happening? Is it intentional? How good a friend is it? And, you know, if you know, it is, you know, just for fun, they don't mean it, you can talk to them about it, resolve it. Or, you know, you have to tell yourself that it's not, you know, it's not the way you're perceiving it, right? And over time, you know, develop, you know, think of all the good things this person said about you. Think of all the things they've done for you that shows you that, you know, they care about you and they don't genuinely mean whatever insult or tease they made. And like I said, you know, don't avoidance is the worst thing in any situation. Just because you're anxious doesn't mean you have to avoid it. Of course, unless it's something that, you know, requires you to be anxious. Like, for example, maybe, you know, going into a really public place that's with lots of people, you know, because of COVID, you have every right to be anxious and avoid. But, you know, if they're your friends, you've hung out with them for so many years, you do enjoy hanging out with them, you're feeling that anxiety, but it may be misplaced. So go hang out with them and then see how you feel. Is it okay? Sorry, I know now it's 8 o'clock as well. Please stop me at any time. I will answer this question. Is it okay if you're jealous of seeing your closest friends drift apart and become close to other people? Okay. So of course, right? Especially, you know, if they're your closest friends, right? You're naturally going to feel sad, upset, jealous that you're no longer close to them. It's important to consider, you know, why you all have drifted apart as well, right? I would, you know, sometimes people don't realize that a friendship is a two-way street, right? So whilst your friends may have stopped talking to you, you may have also stopped talking to them. But that doesn't mean you can't call them, you can't start WhatsApping them again, you can't invite them to hang out with you, right? And rebuild that friendship, right? With the pandemic also, a lot of people may have drifted from their friends, but it doesn't have to be permanent, right? You can take that action to, reunite and reconcile and be friends again, right? And then, if your friend still is like, no, not interested, doesn't want to hang out with you, then maybe, you look at, who else you have in your life, or maybe they want a true friend or whatever it is, right? But consider also whether you can work towards being friends with them again, or, even speaking to them about it and being like, I feel a little upset you're hanging out with this person more than me. Like, shall we hang out? It's been a while, be honest and open about it, right? I think open communication and honesty are skills that as you get older become increasingly more important. And if you can do that now itself while you're in school, it will benefit you in the long run as well. Okay. Next question. So how not to overthink every situation? Okay. So overthinking is a common characteristic that a lot of us have, right? It also stems from uncertainty, anxiety, right? And what I would recommend in this situation is to really, in life, there are things you can control and things you can't control, right? So things you can't control are, for example, Sri Lankan economy, the politics of the country, what the weather is like, what the weather is going to be tomorrow, whether there is traffic on the road or not, right? You can't control those things, right? Nobody in this world can control it, right? But a lot of us maybe worry about those things, right? COVID, we can't control it, unfortunately. If we want it to end tomorrow, we can't, us, one person alone, or even a collective group of us can't end it, right? So those require acceptance, right? And acceptance is important in life. You need to realize that there are certain things in life that are what they are. It might not be what we like, but it's not about giving up. It's not saying, oh, life is like this, life sucks, I'm not going to do anything, but it's saying, okay, it is what it is, but let me make the best out of this situation. So you work towards improving the situation whilst also accepting that things may not change, right? Like in the example of COVID, we're all doing that, right? We're accepting that COVID is there, right? We're not every day, hopefully, I hope you guys aren't doing this. You're not every day thinking, why is COVID there? COVID should go away. I wish COVID would go. I hate COVID. It's ruining my life. Like if you're thinking that every single day, it can become very destructive and harmful to your well-being, right? Because you're worrying about something that you literally can't control. But what can you control, right? So if you take COVID, for example, you focus on the things you can control. So you can control whether you practice social distancing, whether you practice the safety protocols, whether you wear a mask, where you go, who you interact with, whether you wash your hands frequently, whether you get the vaccine. Those are things you can influence and control, right? And so when whatever problem you're having, if you can dissect it into, okay, I'm thinking about this over and over again, out of this, what can I control? And you take steps to address those concerns, those worries, you will begin to feel like you're having control and impact over your life, right? Whereas if you notice you're worrying or overthinking about a situation and you're only focusing on the things you can't control, you're just going to continue to be in that loop. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to do one last question. So I'll take this question and then please excuse me. All right, I hope that's okay. My email, website, number, Instagram, it's all here. So you guys can reach out to me, right? I've also included this hotline. As I mentioned, I'm a part-time psychologist at Shanti Magram. So they offer free of charge hotline counseling. So that's over the phone, as well as online one-on-one counseling. So especially, for people from low socioeconomic backgrounds or people who don't have, like, if you guys would like to do it, but you can't get your parents to pay for it, then, I recommend going to the hotline. Of course, otherwise, you can always come in Bright Minds as well, but that's more of a paid service. But either way, I'm available. My details are here. You can reach out to me. So let me just answer this last question before I go. I'm really sorry I can't answer anymore, but I hope it was useful to you, right? So what do you do when you're feeling burnt out, too much work, pressure, when you don't have time for yourself and you just need to get away, but you can't due to COVID? Okay, very common thing to go through, right? First thing is, do you really not have time, right? A lot of people tell me, I have no time, but you do have time, right? It's about maybe scheduling your day a bit differently, right? Like I said at the beginning, burnout happens when you're just, you're working yourself to the core, right? So you're studying or you're working and that's all you're doing. Obviously, you're going to feel stressed, you're going to feel sad, you're going to feel frustrated, you're going to feel angry because you're not taking that time for yourself. So self-care is so, so important. And I don't want you to say you don't have time, because you can find time, right? Even if you have to sacrifice half an hour from your work schedule, do it, right? Because that half an hour you sacrifice actually is enabling you to be more productive. It's enabling you to feel better, and it's enabling you to perform better, right? Think more clearly, concentrate, retain information better, make effective decisions. All of that is happening only when you are in a good mental state, when your mental health is good, right? So it's so important. So don't take it for granted. Don't say you don't have time. You can find time. Even half an hour a day is enough, right? So half an hour a day and all those things that I spoke about earlier, those are what you have to look into, right? And yes, okay, maybe you might not be, because of COVID, you can't go anywhere, right? But that doesn't mean you can't still expose yourself to positive and pleasurable experiences, right? You can connect with your friends on Zoom. You can, exercise at home in your room or in your garden. You can go for a walk on the street, right? You don't have to go out to still do things, right? So think about within your environment, your space, what can you do, right? And okay, maybe you're not talking to your friends as much, but maybe your family is there, right? And maybe all this time you haven't really appreciated them or wanted to spend time with them, but why not watch a movie with them? Why not play a game with them? Make sure you create those positive experiences for you, and you don't view life as out of your control and no time to enjoy anything. If you view it like that, of course, you're going to feel demotivated, fatigued, tired, burnt out, etc. Okay. All right. So thank you all for attending today's webinar and for all those questions. It was amazing for me to be a part of this. I'm very pleased that you guys focused on these initiatives. I hope it was helpful to you, and I wish all of you all the best with your future endeavors. And please take care of yourselves, take care of your health physically and mentally, and all the best. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tasha, for your guidance. We're sure it helped our audience. I would now like to call upon Interactor Yahya and Interactor Shahzad Rahman to deliver the vote of thanks.
It's my privilege to have been asked to propose the vote of thanks for this event. On behalf of the organizing committee of Project You Matter and board of officials of the Interact Club of Burhani Serendib School and Isipathana College and the Rotary Club of Cinnamon Gardens, I would like to convey my heartiest thank you towards the guest speaker, Ms. Tasha De Silva, who took time out from her busy schedule to speak at our event and educate our audience on mental health and the stigma that is associated with it. We are sure your words positively impacted people's lives and hope you continue to impact lives in the future too. Furthermore, we extend our gratitude towards Rotarian Asif Jayama and Rotarian Rotaractor Paul Harris Fellow, past President Hanika Rahil, for their assistance throughout this project.
In addition, I would like to take this opportunity to convey our heartfelt gratitude to all the dignitaries present here today. Our principal, Dr. Sheikh Shabbir Hussain, and our staff advisor, Ms. Rashida Abdul Hussain, for their constant support in organizing this event. Finally, a thank you goes out to all our audience for the day. The session would not have been a success without your presence. In conclusion, I hope Allah grants our beloved Akamola a long and healthy life until the day of judgment. Ameen. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you. Take care.